Good morning, beautiful people. Dynasty startup season is here. So we're doing some mocks. We're doing one both today and tomorrow. A full Dynasty startup mock. Actually, we're probably going to do about 11 rounds because ain't nobody got time for that. But we're going to do it and then break it down, give some analysis as we're doing it. Now, tomorrow's video is going to be from the 12 spot. Today's going to be from the 1 spot. Okay, so we are on both sides of the specky here to get a little bit of a different taste in terms of strategy and where we could see players going. Now, one caveat. Obviously, most Dynasty startups have a bunch of trades happening in the middle of the drafts, all right? We're doing a 12-teamer. It's going to be super flex. It's full PPR. It's tight end premium. We're starting 3 wide receivers, a couple flexes. So it's pretty standard settings for how Dynasty startups usually happen. And in the draft, the first draft, there are tons of trades. And if you're new here, this is going to be a good little dive into what a Dynasty startup draft looks like. And we're also going to be telling you how to get into some Dynasty startups if you are interested in that as well, whether you're new or you're a seasoned veteran. Shout out Kyle Lowry's. Now, these drafts that I'm doing both today and tomorrow, obviously subscribe if you want to see tomorrow's, are going to be tradeless. All right. We are a country that has put up our borders, no imports, no exports. They are tradeless because we are doing them on Fantasy Pros. The Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard, which is against computers. And I know what you're saying. It's going to be unrealistic, but I've prepared for this video because what I've actually found is that this method is the most realistic avenue that we could do right now. All right. It's unfortunate, but we're so early into the rookie season that there aren't sites like Sleeper has rookies up there, but the ADPs are all fucked. Even if you do it with 11 other real people, the ADPs of the rookies are so far down that people forget. And then Caleb Williams goes at the end of the 3rd round, and Malik Neighbors goes at the 4-12, and Brock Bowers goes at the 7-5. So listen, there is no perfect way to do the draft at this point in the offseason, unfortunately, but we want to get our tip wet. Pause. We want to get our feet wet. Okay. That worked a little bit better. So what I found is going to the Fantasy Pros website, the Mock Draft Wizard, which is free for anybody to use. Very easy to get here. Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Just type it in on Google. Make sure you're under NFL. Obviously, there's the draft simulator here. You don't have to worry about settings here. Dynasty, all players, snake. Like I said, we're drafting from the 1st spot. The roster positions, we're going to go 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. We will go, 1 normal. We'll go 2 flexes. We'll go 1 super flex. No defense, no kickers ever, of course. Won't go any bench spots. So here's where I tinkered the settings a little bit to make it what I feel like is as realistic as possible for right now. QBs, right? This is a super flex league. If you've ever been in a Dynasty startup, super flex, quarterbacks are the most valued position in these drafts. So I put them very, very high. Running backs, I think just like the landscape that we're in for Dynasty right now, running backs are without a doubt the least valued position. So I put them slightly low. Wide receivers are slightly high. A lot of people like to stack them up. This is full PPR, but I also wanted to make this tight end premium, so I put very high there. No defense, no kicker. Rookies, I also put very high because I think kind of similar to what I said about Sleeper, there's a chance that the rookies are kind of pushed down right now in like the rankings in the ECR, so I wanted to make them really high because I know in Dynasty startups, they're going to end up going really high. They're like the shiny new toy in a startup draft. So this was the best I could do in terms of putting the settings, and I've ran through this a few times already, so I think it's obvious. Listen, again, it ain't perfect. I ain't perfect. I'm close to it. So is this draft. Let's just fucking get into it. Enough yapping. So we have the 1st overall pick. Let me get rid of the fucking bookmarks bar and all this sheesh. I think, listen, if you have the 1st overall pick, I got no problem trading back, but we're going to save those conversations for a later time in the offseason when that's a little bit more relevant. So we won't talk about trades, but if you're at the top of the draft, I think Josh Allen is fine. He's been basically the QB1 in fantasy, I think, like 3 of the last 4 years. If you feel better about Patrick Mahomes in terms of his longevity, even though I don't know why you wouldn't feel that way about Josh Allen too, it's fine. Either one of these 2 guys are, the right pick for me. I'm just going to go with Mahomes. I think if you are in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, maybe Mahomes makes more sense. If you're in a 4, maybe Josh Allen's rushing upside makes a little bit more sense here. All right. So let's go check out the draft board. Let's go see what happened here. Now we had CJ Stroud go off at 5. The only rookie that went off was Caleb Williams. So, Jaden Daniels also went at the 111. JJ McCarthy. Okay, this is actually fucking out of control. But listen, the whole point is, at least by the time we got back up, I do think 3, if not 4, rookie quarterbacks are going to go off the board. So right now, if we are sitting here, there are a few different avenues that we can go. And what I've found to be probably amongst the best strategy right now, I don't love going with a running back here at the turn, but on that note, the running backs fall off dramatically after like the elite guys. So one strategy I really like from the 101 is almost going with that hero RB build where you take one really strong one. I definitely wouldn't take C-Mac here. I would take Taylor. I feel really good about Taylor because he got that contract. He's just as talented as the Breece Halls, the Bijans, in my opinion, and he got the second contract. So I expect him to be in the NFL for as long as these guys are, maybe a couple of years extra, but these guys, but we'll worry about that in 4 years when they have to. The other part about obviously quarterbacks going really early is you could see how many are crossed off already, right? There's like 15 QBs that already went off the board by the time we're back at our pick at 212. So that tells me by the time that we pick again at the 412, 5-1, we're going to be so far down a tier that I almost feel like you need to grab your second quarterback here. Now, I love grabbing the wide receivers. Typically, I like to stack my team with as many wide receivers as possible, especially if you're in start 3 wide receivers, especially if you're in a full PPR right now. I like to grab, 5 to 6 wide receivers in maybe the first 9 or 10 rounds. And it's a little obsessive or excessive, but anyone who's been in a startup draft and has built a successful team from the rip will agree with me because they are so much longer lasting on your team than these running backs who just go in and out of style real fucking quickly. But since I've done this a few times, here's the path we're going to take, and I'll explain why at my next pick. We will hide the drafted players to make it a little more sexy for us. So I think Jordan Love is fine here at the 212. I would also probably argue that Tua's pretty good here. You might not like Tua much as a player, but here's the thing. They're probably about to sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal, and that makes me feel comfortable enough. Pair with McDaniel, pair with Tyreek Hill, pair with Jalen Waddle. They'll probably bring in another weapon eventually soon. So I feel really comfortable with him as a floor player. And that's kind of all I'm looking for at my QB2 spot after I have a dude like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. So I took Jordan Love. We were on the clock again. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think he really lasts here in a normal draft. I don't think Malik Neighbors probably lasts to the 212. If he does, normally I would probably smash this. But again, I want to go down this route where I show you the strategy that I think is optimal from the first or second spot. So I'm actually going to take JT here, and he's going to anchor my running back position where I don't really have to worry about it. Again, Marvin Harrison was the next pick off the board. There goes Malik. There goes Rome. So we miss out on those dudes. And there goes Brock Bowers. So again, I think just based on where we are, I feel pretty good about how realistic this is. Obviously, the JJ going before Caleb Williams is out of control and him not being around here is whatever. But the fact that we're back up on the clock and those 3 rookies are kind of off the board, that is what I expect to really happen. Now, the reason that I faded wide receiver there, and I don't know that I would necessarily do that if I'm really, really on the clock, but is because I think the single best value in all of Dynasty drafts and just Dynasty in general are these mid-aged wide receivers that still have 3 to 4 really, really good years. Everyone is enamored by the 21, 22, 23-year-old wide receivers because of what they will become when they're 25, 26, 27. These guys are the 25, 26, 27s, like the Michael Pittman, the DK Metcalf, the DJ Moore, the T. Higgins, the Nico Collinses. Those are the dudes that I am peppering in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 of a startup draft. They have been easily the best value in all of Dynasty land for quite a while now. And I think if you're going into Dynasty startup strategy type videos, for the most part, I think is pertinent to the first 3 or 4 rounds, because once you get to round 4, 5, 6, 7 in a startup draft, ADP is so far out the fucking window. Trades are going crazy. People are building in all different types of strategies. One guy's going super QB heavy. One guy's going complete straight rebuild right away. He's already traded away all of his startup picks for rookie picks later, for rookie picks next year and rookie picks the year after that. Another guy's going with the win now approach. And you know what I mean? Everyone's taking a different approach to the point where it's not like in a redraft league with your high school buddies where it's the next guy up is probably going to try to take the next best player available, right? It doesn't really work like that when it comes to startup drafts. So again, ADP kind of goes out the window and you're just grabbing the guys that you want to build your team around. Now, I actually fucking love Trey McBride, and this is a tight end premium league, but I still do feel relatively comfortable with a lot of the tight ends still here. And I kind of want to see how far Kyle Pitts falls in drafts right now. So I'm going to grab Michael Pittman, who again, I think is 25 or 26 years old. He is attached to Anthony Richardson right now, coming off a monster year. So I'm going to go with him. And you can go with DK, you can go with DJ Moore, T. Higgins. I got no problem with really any of these dudes. You know, if you want to lean a little bit more towards the youth, maybe you go with Drake London on the upside that they find a good quarterback this year. Rashee Rice just had a big year, obviously, as a rookie. Or if you want to go with someone who you feel is like a little more proven in the Metcalf or DJ Moore, you can go that way. I got no problem with basically this like entire tier outside of probably JSN right now. Who cares? I'm going to go with Nico Collins right here. Again, third-year player who just had a massive fucking breakout. And he is also tied to CJ Stroud. So that doesn't hurt at all. So now you get two dudes in Michael Pittman and Nico Collins who could easily be top 12 wide receivers this year in the 4th and 5th round. And this, again, is where I'm looking to continue to like pepper these middle round wide receivers. And even down here, you can go with youthful wide receivers that came off of good years that like haven't showed elite upside yet, right? Like Devontae Adams, elite player. Jayden Reed could take that step next year. So you're just really peppering like these groups of wide receivers in these middle rounds to like stack up the depth on your roster. So right now, this is the team on the left side. We have Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Jonathan Taylor, Pittman, Nico Collins, right? Like we can pretty much find a ton of RB2s that could fit in there and give us like 10 points a game, right? Like we'll be able to grab Jerome Ford. We'll be able to grab one of these rookies, honestly. We'll be able to grab Jalen Warren like in a few rounds. So I'm not worried about filling that spot. I might think about grabbing a QB3 on this turn, maybe like a Baker Mayfield, depending on how you feel about Bryce Young or the longevity of Stafford or Geno Wilson or something like that, or even like Daniel Jones I kind of like here. But I think for the most part, I'm probably going to continue going down this route of nailing wide receivers. You know what? Devontae, I don't feel like his game fell off. I feel like the QB play fell off, and I'm still okay drafting Devontae Adams here, and I'll mix it up with a little bit of youth. George Pickens coming off his first 1,000-yard season. You know, you just take these little shots of like high upside, high floor, maybe medium upside type guys, and you start to build a roster around, again, guys on different parts of the spectrum. So now maybe we start to look at the tight end position. George Kittle, who just had, another massive year, as he just typically does year over year. But I might want to go a little bit more youthful, like Evan Ingram just had a huge year with T-Law, and maybe I feel like I'll get a couple extra years out of him, depending on how you feel about Jake Ferguson. You know, there's a lot of younger players that I feel like you can probably bank on and maybe grab two of these. I know in a couple of my startups I did last offseason, I grabbed like Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Isaiah Likely, like combinations of those guys, and that ended up working out really well because I don't necessarily know that like Ingram or Ferguson are game changers at this point when there are still dudes like Christian Watson and Josh Downs on the table there to draft, and I really, really like continuing to pepper like high upside young wide receivers. But I also think there's probably something here with a QB3 that I should probably look at. So I'm going to take Baker here as my QB3. Again, when you're leaving a super flex draft in Dynasty, you definitely want to have at least like 3 usable quarterbacks on your roster. So I'm going to go Baker, and because I have Jordan Love, let me stack him up with Christian Watson. Oh, Adonai Mitchell just went off the board. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of forgot about most of the rookies at this point, but they've been going off the board. Let's take a look at any of the rookies. I know they're labeled as free agents, so they'll highlight if I control F free agent. So we had, okay, so this is obviously the most unrealistic part of this draft, most likely, is that Drake May went all the way down to the 6'11 here. If I had to project where he really goes, it's probably somewhere from like the 2'4 to the 2'11, 2'12, because he'll likely be the second pick overall in a startup draft. But other than that, these are probably like a round or two later than they really will go in startup drafts. But like Troy Franklin, Brian Thomas, I also love like just peppering in rookies during these rounds as well, because the thing is like everybody loves rookies during the rookie draft, right? Like we spend all offseason talking about how we love Brian Thomas, we love Xavier Worthy, we love Keon Coleman, but in a startup draft it's a little bit different. I think you get really good value on these rookies in startup drafts because while you love the rookie names, you also start putting them next to veteran names, right? Like Troy Franklin sounds good. But then when you're on the clock and you're deciding between Troy Franklin and Amari Cooper and Deebo Samuel and Mike Evans and Jayden Reed, then Troy Franklin starts to look a little bit more like, mayonnaise to the burger and the French fries, where in a rookie draft, Troy Franklin might look like that beef patty. You know what I mean? So I do think there's great value to be had in like the 7th, 8th through 11th round when it comes to rookies in these drafts. Now, I told y'all that we would let you know how to join a Dynasty startup draft this offseason, and I believe this will be solidified by the end of this week. So you are watching on Monday. By this weekend, we should have this in place within our Discord. It will literally be as simple as you joining the Discord and you finding the bot that's in there. Very easy to find. You join the Discord, literally free to join, and there will be a bot that fills up that you click join league, and it will take the first 12 players to click join league. It will put them in a private chat within the Discord. It will give you a league safe link to everyone so they could pay the buy-in, and then the sleeper link will be thrown into the chat. It'll be that easy, and you are joining leagues with all people in the BDGE audience, all people from the BDGE Dynasty audience. So it will be people who are obviously taking this seriously, are on top of the shit, and it will be one of the more competitive leagues that you are in for fantasy, and you could join as many as you would like. Okay, so go join the Discord. It is free to join. We will make announcements within the Discord this week once we have solidified the movement of the bot and how exactly to do everything once you're in the Discord. But we're really excited to launch this for you guys. I think we're going to put together a ton of fucking leagues. And again, you could join as many as you want. You could do as many startups as you want. You could experiment with as many strategies as you want. They will all be $100 buy-in leagues, no changing. They will all have the same rules and settings. So we, again, will let you know what those are once you're in the Discord. Bite to the draft. All right, so now we have our QB3. We have both of our flexes filled up with young, explosive, upside wide receivers, and I absolutely love the way that this board is played out for us. We do not have a tight end yet, okay? I'm really surprised Dalton Schultz is all the way down here at 17. He just re-signed. That feels like it's probably a little bit off relative to where he'll be going in startup. So Dalton Schultz would be my pick here for sure. I don't hate Pat Freiermuth, but Schultz feels like a guy, F, 50 out of 100, thank you. Don't listen to these stupid fucking grades at the end. If you don't fill up your starting lineups, if you don't fill up spots, you're obviously going to get a terrible grade. I didn't have a second running back spot there, but if I did not go Dalton Schultz there, I would have looked at probably another young wide receiver. Like, I'm not ready to give up on Jameson Williams. I also love Jacoby Myers. Like, he is the perfect, again, depth wide receiver. I talk about those 26, 27, 28-year-olds who still have anywhere from 2 to 4 more really solid years left in their Rolodex, right? Jacoby Myers coming off a really nice solid year in Las Vegas, and he is a guy that will put you up 10 to 14 PPR points per week, and you get him as your like wide receiver 5 or 6 down in the 9th, 10th, 11th round of startups because no one wants him. Everyone thinks he's boring, but he's the type of dude that I am filling up my rosters with in startup drafts this year. So I look at Jahan Dotson, I look at Jameson Williams, these guys who are former first-round picks coming off of relatively down years. And now, I don't know, maybe now is the time I jump into the RB2 role. Like, maybe I look at Aaron Jones. Maybe I wait for fucking Chase Brown. Maybe I wait for, one of these other shitty running backs, or grab a rookie running back like Braylon Allen. If you're doing it before the NFL draft, you might have a little bit more leeway to grab these guys before they end up in good landing spots and people know a little bit more about them. But again, the strategy I'm looking at from the one spot is you take your elite quarterback. You're likely going to have to take another quarterback at the second turn because there's not a lot of good ones available here. Like, do you feel good about Watson going forward? Obviously, you feel good about Goff, I think, but he probably goes in the 4th round in a real startup draft. I don't feel great about Bryce Young. It's like Kirk, sure, a lot of chatter about him, but who knows about the Achilles? The Achilles is a serious fucking injury for a dude who's 35, 36 years old. Drake May would never fall this far, so I do think by the time you're at the 412, 501 turn, you're not going to have good options at your QB2 spot. So I do think getting one at the turn here is good. And I also like anchoring this spot with a really good running back because you don't have to choose one for another, fucking 8 rounds. And you can stack up these middle rounds with really, really solid wide receiver options. Obviously, I'd like to walk away with Marvin Harrison or A.J. Brown or Puka or Malik Neighbors. But I do think just in terms of building your best holistic roster, this is a way that I would look at going. I think there's also, an avenue where maybe you go with Marvin Harrison here and then you look to trade him for more than you would get for Jonathan Taylor. I think there's a strategy to that as well. Luckily, we're putting out strategy videos for you as well as these types of mock drafts and player analysis type beats 5 days a week on the Fantasy channel. This video was actually supposed to be a trade video with me, Adam, and Andrew, but our mics were turned off for the hour-long podcast that we did last week. So I actually had to come on here, kind of chop it up by myself for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel, especially because we're doing the same thing that we did right here, right now, just from the 12 spot. So again, if you want to join a Dynasty startup, go join the Discord. We will be making announcements by the end of this week about how you join a Dynasty league. Okay? I love y'all. I'm out of here.